Welcome back to Introduction to Synthesizers, a free class that will teach you all the skills you need to start working with synths. Today we're going to learn one last popular effect commonly used to modify sounds: distortion. Together we will learn what distortion is, how it works, and obviously, most importantly, how to apply it to create different types of sounds. By the end of this video, you will know everything you need in order to apply distortion effects as either part of a synth or a standalone plugin. So, with that, let's get started. So, distortion is just a bit of a catch-all term, and it's used to describe any number of different effects that can alter the shape of your sound by adding additional overtones to the mix. For example, if I load just a simple sine wave from Absinthe 6th, we know that a sine wave consists of a single frequency with no overtones. But if I load a simple distortion plugin, like Distortion by Steinberg, we can change the sound by adding additional frequencies to the sound wave. This is a super useful strategy for just adding a bit of dirt or kind of color to your sound, allowing your synth to stick out a little bit more in your mix. After all, a synth with even just a little bit of distortion added will stick out much more prominently than synths without any additional distortion. Now, since distortion involves adding additional overtones to your sound, typically the very first step to applying one of these effects will be to filter out some of the higher frequencies from your sounds, since it doesn't tend to work well with sounds that already have a ton of higher frequencies. Now, we already talked about filters way back in video number 2, so we're not going to go too much in depth here. Just suffice for now to say that low-pass filters tend to be more useful when you want a wider edge to your sound, while keeping it from pulling too much attention, making it better suited for supportive elements, things like chords, bass lines, and other type layers that should stay in the background of your mix. While a bandpass filter can be used to give your synth more of a razor's edge, capable of cutting right through the mix and demanding much more attention, which makes it perfectly suited for foreground type layers like melodies or leads. Either way, once you have filtered your sound, you will be ready to apply distortion. And the vast majority of all distortion effects can be boiled down to just two simple controls: mix and drive. The mix controls how much of your signal is dry versus wet. In other words, which percentage of your sound actually has distortion applied. In Massive X, if I turn the mix all the way to the left, we will hear no distortion. The further to the right I turn my knob, the stronger the distortion becomes. The drive then controls how strong the actual distortion is. In other words, how many frequencies are being added. My recommendation when you start applying distortion is to start with your mix set to 100%. Then set your drive to 0%. And slowly start increasing it until you have a sound you like. That sounds pretty cool there. Then I'm going to reduce the mix back to 0 and repeat the same exact process, gradually increasing my mix amount until I have a sound that I really enjoy. And while all this theory is well and dandy, it's always nice to have some guidelines to work with when you're first learning how to create your own synths. And for this, there are generally 3 levels of distortion you can work with. And for this demonstration, we're going to stick to just a simple sine wave so we can more easily hear the impact. The first level of distortion is for applying super subtle amounts of warmth and musicality to your sound. With the mix set to 100, just so we can hear the impact a little more obviously, you'll want to set your drive somewhere between 10 and 20%. to create that subtle little quality we're looking for. This is the sine wave with no distortion. This is the sine wave with level 1 distortion. Super subtle. If you are looking for a slightly more controlled level of aggression to your sound, something where you want the distortion to stick out a bit more without being overwhelming, you want to work closer to 20 to 30%. Again, we'll start with 25. Regular sound wave with level 2 distortion. Anywhere beyond 30% is where we find the third and final level of distortion, which results in a super aggressive, crunchy sound with a hard to miss personality of obvious distortion. Now, I should point out that these levels are not official. These are not rules or laws that you have to follow. They're just useful starting points to practice with while you get more and more comfortable with the impact of various distortion plugins and effects at your disposal. And that brings us nearly to the end of another video, my friends. But before we end this video, we need to take a moment to address how this step can fit into your general workflow. First, generally speaking, I would start by deciding which type of synth I'm trying to create. In this case, a lead, pluck, pad, or bass. Then I would select an initial oscillator to use as reference for setting up my amp envelope. This is also where I would decide to set up my synth as being monophonic or polyphonic. Once that's set up, I would experiment with my oscillator configurations or oscillator sync and consider using unison to create the sound that I want, making small tweaks to my amp envelope as necessary before experimenting with filters. Once my initial sound is set up, I would then begin experimenting with how applying LFOs or envelope generators to the various parameters of my synth can help provide additional personality and color to my sound, and how portamento and or legato mode can help contribute to the personality of my instrument. I would also consider whether trigger or phase reset and mono or poly mode would be most useful for the sound I'm trying to create with my LFOs, if applicable. Then finally, I would begin to explore how different effects like chorusing, delay, reverb, and distortion can be used to better shape my sound. Using only what we've learned in this series so far, we're already able to create a wide variety of interesting and unique sounds. So with that taken care of, we have reached the end of another video, my friends. If you found this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Today, we have added the following items to your new synth checklist. If you find yourself working with any new synth, and you can identify these simple tools, you will be that much closer to mastering your new instrument. For a copy of the full checklist, including everything we've learned in the series so far, and all of the items we are yet to cover in future episodes, check out the new workbook I've created to help accompany this series. All proceeds help support the creation of new videos. A special thank you goes to my patrons and channel members for making videos like this one possible. I appreciate each of you more than you realize. You can use the affiliate link in the description of this video to grab a copy of any of the synths used in these videos so far and follow along with the rest of this series. So until next time, my friends, keep studying, keep working hard, and keep writing new music. I will see you in the next video.